Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and usually each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. Took last week off because Cameron was out with the flu, but he's back and feeling better again. So we are going to be diving into Deadpool and Wolverine. How you doing today, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What is going on is, the Deadpool and Wolverine obviously dropped on Disney Plus last week, so it would have been our episode last week. And I think we were talking about, this week we would have done the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary, but since we pushed Deadpool and Wolverine, that's what we're getting. And then, we're not gonna, we're gonna skip next week because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and then we'll be into holiday stuff. I still got to figure out what holiday offerings we're going to do on or maybe this year we just say, hey, never mind, we're going to just do whatever we want to do on Disney Plus, because there are we're going to have like the drop of the Skeleton Crew series. End of the year's going to have the What If final season stuff, so maybe we won't stick with our and especially because we're getting to slim pickings in terms of the holiday stuff we haven't already done that D Plus shows on. Even with Hulu, I was like, oh yeah, Hulu opens up a whole new branch of holiday offerings, but I looked through them and it's these are
they're Garbo.
These are your Hallmark kind of holiday offerings. None of these look good.
That's the slot for everybody who loves Hallmark movies.
Yeah. So we'll see. But for now, this will be our last normal episode of the month, taking next week off. Talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to do this, obviously, using the D Plus, that D Plus show format of things. If you want more of our thoughts, we did a spoiler cast on this back on That Nerdy Site Show, episode 221, back in the end of July. So you can certainly go check that out if you are so inclined. Why did we pick this? Because it's the new MCU thing, of course. And one of the only movie we got this year from the MCU proper. Our history lesson, originally released July 26th, 2024. Other releases of the time, we had Bad Boys Ride or Die, came out June 7th. Inside Out 2, June 14th. A Quiet Place Day 1, June 28th. Despicable Me 4 was the 4th of July offering on July 3rd. Twisters was July 19th. Deadpool and Wolverine here, July 26th. August 9th gave us It Ends With Us and Borderlands. August 16th was Alien Romulus, and September 6th was Beetlejuice. Oh, I have a few more. Just scrolled on to the next page. Transformers 1 was September 20th. September 27th was the trio of The Wild Robot, Saturday Night, and Megalopolis. And October 4th brought probably one of the biggest bombs of the year in Joker Folie à Deux. Our box office breakdown, I probably won't do the normal, guess what the top 10 movies are, because we just did this with Inside Out 2 a couple weeks ago when we did that one. But the domestic gross for Deadpool and Wolverine sitting at $636.7 million, which is up from $324.5 million for Deadpool 2. Where do you think that falls in the overall top 10, Cam?
I want to say number 3.
Number 3 is Despicable Me 4. So do you think Deadpool Wolverine better or worse than Despicable Me 4?
I'm going to say better. So is it number 2?
It is number 2.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Despicable Me 4, I didn't want to give you the number because it was going to be obvious that it was going to be better. Because, Despicable Me 4 at number 3, $361 million compared to the Deadpool 2, or Deadpool and Wolverine, $636 million. So, it's basically this year is Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine, Inside Out 2 being the number 1 movie of the year, domestic with $652.9 million. It's basically Disney ran away with the box office top 2 this year. Worldwide, the picture is the same. I'm not going to turning this into a guessing game there. But both Inside Out 2 is 1.697 billion, and then Deadpool and Wolverine is number 2 with 1.337 billion, up from the 786 million for Deadpool 2. So yeah, the only two movies to break $1 billion thus far in the box office. Maybe Wicked will do crazy numbers, and we'll see. I think that's probably the only other potential option, because I don't think Gladiator 2 is gonna do that. Maybe Moana 2.
I think Moana 2 has a real shot for it.
It'll be a case. Is Moana 2 going to do the same thing that Inside Out did, of like, oh, all the people that have been watching the first movie or have had their kids watching the first movie on Disney Plus for the last 5 years, they're going to, are they going to all go out to the theater to see it? We will see. But yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine number 2. So the game I actually wanted to play with you is, where do you think that falls in the Marvel Cinematic Universe grand scheme of top movies?
Gosh.
Top grossing movies. I'm going to go worldwide here. And this is not going to be adjusted for inflation. This is just raw worldwide grosses. Where do you think?
Hit me with the worldwide number for Wolverine and Deadpool.
1.337 billion.
Okay. We're under the Infinity War duology. I think we're under.
I'll give you Avengers Endgame is number 1, 2.7 billion. Avengers Infinity War 2.04 billion.
Yeah.
At number,
because I know they went past 2 billion. So. Yeah. So when it comes to that, so now I'm thinking, okay, well, where does it go after that? Because I know Deadpool and Wolverine was the first one to like peak past 1 billion for a while, and I'm trying to remember where in that lineup it is, because I'm thinking here, and I'm thinking it's definitely in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about where it is in the top 5.
Yeah, I will give you a clue. There is one movie post-pandemic MCU movie ahead of it so one other post-pandemic movie has done better than Deadpool.
And I think that's Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
That was number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
1.9 billion.
Then after that is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine, I would say.
No, there are at least 2 more.
So it's number 6.
It's number 6.
It's number 6.
So
okay.
What do you think are the 2 that surpass Deadpool and Wolverine?
Trying to scrape away the brain mothballs when it comes to like my MCU knowledge, MCU box office knowledge in particular. Like just clearing out the cobwebs here just mentally for a moment. I'm gonna say it's not Quantumania for sure.
Oh God, no.
I'm trying to think post-pandemic MCU-wise, like what have we got?
That's what I'm saying. There's no
post-pandemic. Okay.
Spider-Man No Way Home was the only other post-pandemic that did better than
okay, then I would Thor Ragnarok?
Thor Ragnarok, no.
Nope.
That's
okay.
Not even, I'm looking at like maybe the top 15 and that's not in there.
Okay. Black Panther?
Black Panther is right behind it at number 7 with 1.334
Gotcha. Okay.
billion.
Okay. So bigger than Black Panther, smaller than No Way Home. I'm trying to go through my like catalog here. Civil War.
Civil War is it's going to be number 9 with 1.15 billion. Captain America Civil War, but you're on the right track, I would say.
So then I'm going to say
like
Winter Soldier at that point, or you're talking crossover stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, if we're talking crossover, then I mean I'm just going to go Spider-Man Homecoming.
No, that's a few further down, 878 million.
Then Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man No Way Home was the number 3. You already said that one.
Far From Home.
Spider-Man Far From Home is what do I say? That was number 10, I think. Right, it's basically right behind Civil War. 1.1.
Gotcha. Okay. Ooh, okay. We are parsing. The hint you gave me was crossover.
Yeah.
Hint you gave me was crossover. So the big 3 crossovers that I can think of are the duology the Endgame duology or the Infinity War duology, and then you have Civil War. Those are the 3 big crossovers that I think of.
Okay.
If I'm thinking,
what's that duo? What's the name of that duology?
oh, dude, I'm such an idiot. Avengers, duh. Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are your 4 and 5, yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb.
Yeah. What are the real big crossover events of the MCU? Oh, that's right. When all of the Avengers assemble. Yeah, the Avengers is number 4 with 1.5
And I should remember that
billion.
because before Endgame and Infinity War, Avengers 1 was like the big movie to beat. Like that was like the crown jewel of the MCU crown.
Yep. Avengers Age of Ultron was there at number 5, 1.395 billion. And then the only other one in like the top 10 we didn't talk about behind Black Panther was Iron Man 3.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Basically hot on the heels of the Avengers. Iron Man 3 did 1.2 billion. Despite how much people hate the Mandarin reveal. Well, they didn't hate it at the box office. The other thing I'll say, Captain Marvel there right behind Spider-Man Far From Home. So we're looking at like number 12 or something like that. Because it was the other one that broke $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, let's be very real here.
And then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness did do 952 million. So it's up there above Spider-Man Homecoming. But
Multiverse of Madness, I feel like got hurt real bad by like on the nerd front because it came out like right after everything everywhere all at once.
Sure. The crossover between those, as much as we love Everything Everywhere All at Once, that did not do anywhere near
no.
MCU number.
And I'm not talking about box office wise. I'm talking about like within the critical kind of like look at it. Because when you look at people's critical look at that movie, a lot of people pull a reference from that film, or they're just like, I wasn't impressed by the multiverse in this movie.
Yeah, that's the bigger thing for Multiverse of Madness for me is Multiverse of Madness has such potential, and especially coming out of the, not out of the pandemic, but like it being one of the first ones that was released, as people started going back to theaters during the pandemic, especially. People really, really fell in love and started to see what we saw with Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So it not only did it not live up to like that potential, it was also just like people were like, okay, yeah, you say it's a multiverse, but you spend the entire movie in 2, universes.
2-3 universes,
You like skip through a whole bunch of like way more interesting universes versus like our universe. And our universe, but green lights are red here, or whatever. It's like,
and pizza comes in balls.
And pizza comes in ball form. Yeah. It was I would say like much more of a letdown on that front. You squander the infinite potential of a multiverse, all so you can have like one little cameo sequence of the Illuminati that all just turn into fodder for Scarlet Witch. Yeah, and that was the other thing. It was the first movie that had potential to show like how the TV stuff on Disney Plus was tied into the greater MCU, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is a complete regression of that character compared to who they were in WandaVision at the end of WandaVision." Boo. That was disappointing. But anyway.
Yep.
Number 6 in the MCU, Deadpool and Wolverine, just surpassing I think anybody's expectations for it. Movie has a runtime of 2 hours and 8 minutes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline of things. Now that Wade Wilson and company have crossed over, we had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. February of last year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May of last year, The Marvels, November of last year, then Deadpool 3 here, Deadpool and Wolverine, July 26th. Up next, we have Captain America Brave New World, February 14th, 2025, Thunderbolts **, May 2nd, 2025. The Fantastic Four First Steps is scheduled for July 25th, 2025. And then we move into Avengers Doomsday, scheduled for May 1st, 2026. An untitled Spider-Man No Way Home sequel, scheduled for July 24th, 2026. And Avengers Secret Wars, scheduled for May 7th, 2027.
I'm so stoked for the next Spider-Man. I rewatched on TikTok like the last 30 minutes of No Way Home through different like parts. Like Malcolm feed was just like feeding it to me.
That seems like way too long of a video for a TikTok thing.
Yep, it was. I forgot. I didn't realize that I had gone to see if they present other clips, and so I just scrolling through, and I just like went through like the last like 25 minutes of the movie, and I was like, man, I forgot how good that movie ends, and like the potential it really opens up. So like, I'm stoked for the next one. I can't wait.
Yeah, the hope everybody has is that like we're going to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back for Secret Wars or something like that.
That would be sick. That would be so sick.
Yeah.
Even if they don't show back up, I'm super grateful that we got what we got from them.
Yeah.
Kind of like cementing like the legacy. One, like also like giving like a great redemption to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which like, you know, I have my feelings about those films. When we did, what was it, Summer of Spider-Man?
Yeah, whatever.
We did like Summer of Spider-Man where we watched all the Spider-Man movies. I was never a fan of of his films. Let me put it this way. I was never a fan of the films he was in, but I always really loved his Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I felt he was fantastic as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think that was kind of where that was at least where I sat. I don't remember where Logan falls on all that stuff, apart from he loves the Raimi stuff far more than he should.
I also love the Raimi stuff far more than I should. Yeah, you definitely have the most average view on the Raimi films.
Yeah.
But none of us could defend Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Nobody can defend that film.
The gripe and the problem with the Amazing Spider-Man is always like, all right, yeah, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are doing a lot of heavy lifting, and they're great, and their chemistry's great, but Sony was trying too hard, too quick to create their Spider-Verse. And doing this thing that we've seen them continue to do in non-MCU things of like Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter coming out and stuff like that. It's like, no, they tried to jump to the Sinister Six way too soon, and it did not work in any kind of form or fashion.
It also was falling to a lot of like.
They also do the whole like mystery box of like what really happened to Peter's parents. Fuck off.
There's that, but also on top of that, there was also just a matter of. Story-wise, like a lot of story beats that were happening in way too many films at that time. Like, your dad was part of this prod. Like, I mentioned
secret.
The secret legacy that you didn't know that you had, which was like prevalent in films at that time.
Yeah, this was always destined to be you because your dad made it so that it was only going to affect your DNA or whatever bullshit that was. Anyway, back to Deadpool and Wolverine here. Our roll call: the director of this film. Making his debut in the Deadpool series, Sean Levy, who I've talked about here before because he did Free Guy when I did the episode on that. But I did not catch until like going through and like pulling his stuff here. One of his first things, directed 4 episodes of The Secret World of Alex Mack, which is a show I liked on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, same. The girl who turned into Capri Sun Silver thing.
Yeah, Larissa Olenek.
Yeah.
He also did 3 episodes of Animorphs. He directed 46 episodes of The Famous Jet Jackson, as well as...
Dude, that show was the bomb!
As well as Jet Jackson,
shout out to Jet Jackson, the actor who played Jet Jackson. He's passed away since then.
Yeah.
Shout out to that show. That show was so cool.
Yeah. I did not know this. He also did Big Fat Liar. He was the director of that.
No way! That makes sense. Okay.
He directed the 2003 Cheaper by the Dozen.
That's a good film. I enjoy it.
Night at the Museum was one of his bigger kind of breakout things, I would say.
That's sick. That's a good movie.
He worked with Hugh Jackman previously in Real Steel.
That's an underrated film, and if they had called it what they should have called it, it would have been a bigger film.
Sure.
They should have called it Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah. Because that kind of branding works wonders for movies, and that's why Battleship, is lauded so famously these days.
No, Battleship is a bad movie because it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
Real Steel was a great movie that was marketed poorly.
Nobody would have seen Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
I would have.
Nobody would have gone to see Rock'em Sock'em
championed
Robots.
that name for it since the day it came out, and I champion it to this day now.
Yeah.
If I ever owned a physical copy of that film, I would have taped over the Real Steel title on it with Rock'em Sock'em Robots and categorized it in my collection that way.
Sure. He also has directed 8 episodes of Stranger Things, and then he really started working with Ryan Reynolds and has begun this kind of career collaboration now with Free Guy.
I'm sorry, I just had an idea. The Ryan Reynolds. There you go.
Sure.
The Ryan Reynolds.
Free Guy, The Atom Project, and now Deadpool and Wolverine. The writers of this, we have returning from the previous Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, and Paul Wernick. And then new writers on this one are additions Zeb Wells and Sean Levy. Ryan Reynolds previously wrote on Deadpool 2. He also wrote on the documentary Welcome to Wrexham and now Deadpool and Wolverine. Rhett Reese previously wrote on The Joe Schmo Show, Zombieland, the G.I. Joe Retaliation movie, the original Deadpool, Zombieland Double Tap, and the Twisted Metal series, as well as now Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, he did the Twisted Metal series?
Yep.
I still gotta watch that. That's on Peacock, right?
I believe so. That sounds right. Paul Wernick also wrote, basically Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese writing partners. They also wrote on Joe Schmo Show, Zombieland, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Deadpool 1, Zombieland, Deadpool 2, and Twisted Metal, and now Deadpool 3. Zeb Wells, as one of the new people on the crew, his most prominent work was on the animated series Robot Chicken. But he also wrote one episode of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and is credited as the kind of creator-writer of the upcoming Marvel Zombies series. So
good dude to do it.
And then Sean Levy, this is his debut and sole writing credit thus far. Our cast of characters, Ryan Reynolds, of course, returning as Wade Wilson / Deadpool / Nicepool in this, having been in stuff like Van Wilder, Two Guys, a Girl, The Pizza Place, Green Lantern, the Deadpool movies, Free Guy, Red Notice, The Atom Project, all that stuff.
Assassin's Bodyguard.
Yeah, the Hitman's Bodyguard.
Hitman's Bodyguard, that's right.
Yep. Hugh Jackman in here, new to the Deadpool and new to the Deadpool series, but of course has been Logan and Wolverine in the X-Men films since 2000. Also in the aforementioned Real Steel, the film Les Mis, and The Greatest Showman. Emma Corrin is Cassandra Nova here, having previously been in Pennyworth and The Crown, where they play the Lady Di role in the lineage of British monarchy. And then Matthew McFadden, Matthew McFadden? I don't know. Might be McFadden. He is Mr. Paradox here, having previously been in Pride and Prejudice back in the day as Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
And then he was in the 2010 Russell Crowe Robin Hood, but he is probably best known to audiences these days for his work in Succession.
He's such a good actor. I love him so much.
Then relegated to virtually cameo status in this one, we have the Deadpool 1 and 2 crew of Morena Baccarin as Vanessa, Rob Delaney as Peter, Leslie Uggams as Blind Owl, Karan Soni as Dopinder, Brianna Hildebrand as Negatonic Teenage Warhead, Shioli Kutsuno as Yukio, Stefan Kapicic as Colossus, Randall Reeder in here back as Buck, who basically gets like a one little line cameo after his like one little line cameo thing from the last one, and Louis Tan somehow as Shatterstar, having survived. And then other cameos, of course, in a very cameo-friendly film. We have Daphne Keane as Laura / X-23, Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan, Jennifer Garner as Elektra, Wesley Snipes as Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, Henry Cavill as The Cavalrine, Wunmu Musaku as B-15 from Loki, Aaron Stanford as Pyro, Blake Lively as Ladypool, Inez Reynolds, one of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' children, as Kidpool, Nathan Fillion as Headpool, Matthew McConaughey as Cowboy Pool, Olin Reynolds, another Reynolds child, as Baby Pool, and Nicholas Pauly as Dance Pool, doing the Bye 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 dance at the top of the film. And there were just so many that I was like, nope, all they're getting is their name. I'm not going through and doing the normal credit stuff for them. Some trivia here. Aaron W. Reed, who played the body double for Dude in Free Guy, is a cameo in this movie as this universe's version of the Juggernaut. Rob McElhaney filmed a cameo as a TVA soldier that was sucked into the void with Deadpool and Wolverine, but was ultimately cut out of the film. Likely would have been killed gruesomely by Cassandra Nova in the way that the Human Torch is, to, like, you know, up the stakes here in the void. Yeah, basically, like, in there, filmed a cameo. There's, like, behind-the-scene footage of him in a TVA outfit and just fully cut from the film. Other trivia here. It was a big deal to get rights to use Madonna Like a Prayer, as Madonna doesn't license songs often, especially that song. Ryan Reynolds and director Sean Levy had to pay her a personal visit to show her the sequence it was being used in and explain why. According to them, it helped that her son was a big fan of Deadpool, and during the meeting, Madonna suggested a change that made the sequence better and was so good they decided to shoot it again within 72 hours. And Reynolds, I don't know what that change would have been, but Reynolds called the experience, quote, one of the great thrills of my life. Ryan Reynolds revealed that Deadpool and Wolverine was originally going to be called Deadpool and Friend. However, they changed the title the day before the first trailer was released after negative feedback from the proposed title leaking. Ryan Reynolds claimed that Disney and Marvel had already shipped 9,000 7-foot-tall standees to theaters with the old title. They had to get those back. And
that's going to be one of those collector items, like the Revenge of the Sith poster or Revenge of the Jedi poster type stuff.
Yep. Wesley Snipes' return as Blade set the record for the longest gap between Marvel character appearances, with Snipes last playing Blade in Blade Trinity 2004, which was 19 years and 231 days earlier, beating Alfred Molina's record of 17 years between Dr. Octopus appearances in Spider-Man 2, 2004, and Spider-Man No Way Home, 2021. Obviously, being a MCU movie that has a ton of cameos like this, I'm sure there is plenty of other trivia that you can find out there, but those were the ones I wanted to pull and highlight for this. So, on a rewatch, Cameron, what'd you think of this one? How did it hold up?
I was a little worried going into it. I did not know if it was going to hold up as well. A lot of the appeal when we watched it the first time in that spoiler cast, if you go back and listen to it, a lot of that appeal is like of the surprises that we got out of it.
Sure, yeah.
And so my concern going into this was, how is this film going to carry itself when I already know everything that's coming? Mm-hmm. When I already know all the cameos, I'm not going to be surprised by anything. And the only thing I got surprised by was how, like, the through line really does work. The cameos and everything I feel are like fluff to help kind of flesh out the world going on, especially when you go into like the place like the Void. The Void is such a like lack of any sort of like substance or character, so getting a ton of tiny cameos helps fill out this world a little bit. The use of like taking what should be quote unquote cameos and elevating them to like supporting roles. Mm-hmm. When you get like Gambit, Blade, Elektra, Laura, you like getting that elevation from them just being like cameos showing up once or twice.
Yeah, they're your second act crew.
They're your second act crew. They nail it. The fact that it has a strong, like, normally films when they have 3 acts, it's like first act, big chunk, second act, big chunk, third act, tiny chunk. This film gives itself a full 3, like evened out 3 acts of big chunk, big chunk, big chunk. To sometimes its detriment, I do feel it is a little long in the tooth on some parts. And if you ask me what parts, I wouldn't be able to like really nail down which ones. Mm-hmm. It's just overall somewhere in there, there's probably 5 to 15 minutes of like some like interstitial dead, like.
So one of the things to a little bit of what you're talking about, I think one of the things, and I'm certainly not like alone in calling this out. The people over at Honest Trailers call it out directly in their video, is on a rewatch, the applause breaks that are built into all of the characters slow motion walking into frame. That could absolutely be cut down now that you know who's there and who's coming. Like, it's just this is now just an overlong sequence because it was built for that moment in the theater of people seeing Blade come on screen and being like, holy shit, or seeing Elektra come on being like, who is that, or seeing Gambit come on and being and the very niche people that followed that news and knew that Channing Tatum had been attached to Gambit for so long, seeing him come in and be like, oh my god, they actually did it.
Yeah. In the comic book accurate, like the comic show accurate outfit, the classic Gambit outfit,
the Cavalrine, sequence, all of the like alt universe Wolverines, like those could all be cut down now that like they're not surprises anymore, and you'd still have like you wouldn't lose anything.
I think that's it.
If you had cut them down for the theatrical release, obviously, then you lose too much because people are still like cheering and you miss half of Gambit's lines, which are already tough enough to understand and hear anyway.
Watching with subtitles was so nice. It was so much better with subtitles.
I was so wishing they had gone full meme with the like, oh, I'm about to make a name for myself here, and just like done that all as one word, but they did not. They actually wrote out all of his stuff. But yeah, that was also the thing for me of like seeing that a second time. I picked up most of what he had said originally, but yeah, there were definitely some things where I was like, oh, he went that crass with like especially the thing of like being shot out of his daddy's junk or whatever.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, that was
it went deep, and he kept going.
I didn't hear the full gravity of that one originally.
100%, because other people started talking, and he just keeps going about like the conception process, and it's like, wow, you got graphic with that, and I didn't realize it until this moment. Overall, I think like this film at its like it continues to nail the number one thing it needs to nail, which is like the heart of Deadpool. Mm-hmm. I will say this is probably the Deadpool film that has the least amount of heart. And it comes to my biggest criticism, which is you brought it up when you brought up the cast. You cameo an incredible cast of characters. Yeah, that is the quote unquote family that you reference is there for a 5-minute scene and then we're gone. And I get why we're gone.
Yeah.
But not checking back in on them, not doing any kind of thing. Having it only be Peter, the one showing up at the end. Like it would have been better if there was more touchstones or touch tones to what the other group is going on with. But instead they end up being a cameo at the beginning and end of the film.
Yeah, it's for the thing that Deadpool is fighting on, this very much sacrifices the cast of Deadpool 1 and 2 in honor of what Deadpool's really fighting for, and what Ryan Reynolds is really fighting for is a send-off to the Fox universe of films, which is its own fun meta-ness. But yeah, the fact that it comes at the expense of the cast of characters and the family that Deadpool had built up over the last couple movies is, I think, a significant disappointment. And let alone like the fact that there's just no payoff from the Josh Brolin stuff of the last one, and Domino doesn't come back for no reason.
Russell's not here.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, it's very much like, oh yeah, the if this had just been like the first Deadpool movie or something like that, wouldn't have been drastically different, because we're so disconnected in this movie from his family and who he says he's doing this all for. And also I also hate the arbitrary off-screen breakup of Wade and Vanessa.
Absolutely so.
Despite everything in the past movies, completely being the contrary.
He literally broke time and space to go back and save her. Like, don't get me wrong, I have some thoughts about like what the next film should be, especially after Agatha All Along and like Aubrey Plaza's death. I have a lot of ideas about what they could do with that. Going back to like Deadpool's comic book backstory and origin. There's a lot of fun stuff you could play with there. But
is that fun stuff for the comic, or it like, because the thing is, these need to be fun. Like Ryan Reynolds has come out and said, like, it took us 6 years to break this story, and really they only broke it because Hugh Jackman called out of the blue and was like, yeah, I want to do a Deadpool and Wolverine thing. Let's figure out how to make this work. Like, I think the big thing will there be a Deadpool 4? Ryan Reynolds is going to have to really figure out like what is that story going to be. This
is where you kind of get into it, and we can go back and fix the issue of the Deadpool 2 cast.
I don't think the idea of Deadpool and death, like as a romantic couple or whatever, is
that's where you're not getting it. Yeah, that's not where we're not going in. We're not playing into that. We're playing into never mind. Well, let's keep on topic with this. It's the idea I had. It's not fully fleshed out, and honestly, I'm not in charge of Marvel. It'll probably never happen. But the idea would basically be Vanessa and Wade are like back together. But basically same thing that Death had an issue with Billy. It's like, hey, like you, like the whole cosmic issue with that. You could play into that a little bit, but basically have it be kind of there was a film from the 90s where it was about a dude who made like a pharmaceutical thing that like made people immortal. and it was him and his two love interests, like murdering
Death Becomes Her?
Death Becomes Her.
You're talking Death Becomes Her? Which is getting it's having its own little revival because they've turned it into a Broadway play.
You do Death Becomes Her, but with Death and Vanessa and Wade. You do it that way.
All right.
That was my idea that I had. I was like, yeah, this is a fun idea because like it could be fun. Anyway, that was my idea about it. There you go. I couldn't remember the name of the film, so thank you. Death Becomes Her, but with Deadpool, Death, and I mean, hell, like maybe not Vanessa, maybe Cable. Like I don't know, play around with it. They got a little homoerotic with Cable and Deadpool in the Cable and Deadpool comic book series. They play with that a little bit.
I mean, that's the thing though. Is like, if they were to bring back Cable at this point, they would have to fully like call out the fact that like, yeah, this is a whole nother Natalie Portman thing from Thor of like, we specifically wrote him out of the last movie because we couldn't fit him in, but now he's back for this one because no reason. Like I think. I was
stressed throughout. I wasn't thinking about it.
Deadpool will make a great appearance in other, in the Avengers Secret War stuff. I don't think we get another Deadpool standalone because I don't think they know how to do that and make it interesting and compelling again. But
that's fair. I think that's really fair. Also, Deadpool coming in and being kind of like a ancillary or like a what am I looking for? What term am I looking for?
Auxiliary?
Not auxiliary. It's like the part of a greater cast. Ensemble. Making him like an ensemble player rather than a solo star makes sense for where he goes next.
Yeah.
Also, successfully introduced the Fox universe as that specific multiverse. It has its own multiverse number now. It's part of the canon, but it's in its own section of things. But if they need to pull Wade out, they can because they've now made that like touch and connection with the TVA and the Sacred Timeline and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we know that it takes place after Loki season 2 because of who's in charge of the TVA at that point. So,
yep,
all good stuff.
Yep. That is my biggest gripe of this movie as well. Is completely sacrificing the core Deadpool crew to cameo status for this one, where they basically are there in the scene at Deadpool's house, and that's it. So it seems like, oh, you just did this as like one day of shooting. Like you pulled that set out, you had everybody do the early scene, and then you had everybody come back and do the later scene. All right, yeah, it's a good paycheck for all those people, but yeah, disappointing to see just how sidelined they are compared to how much more critical they were in the past stories. But that said, this does then instead serve as a fun spot fest and cameo fest for the other stuff that is not just a gratuitous cameo for gratuitous cameo's sake. It is, all right, we do all this setup to highlight Captain America, and Wade's super excited to work with Captain America, and there's Chris Evans, and he's going to say the thing, he's going to say the Captain America thing, and they twist it and they turn him into his Human Torch character, and yeah, he goes full Fantastic Four with it. A ton of fun to see that play out, which then sets up for Elektra, and Blade was obviously the big surprise
because nobody saw that coming,
especially because of like the notoriously reported in the trades bad blood between Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds on Blade Trinity,
and only for Wesley Snipes to be asked about it. He goes, "Oh no, like we patched that up, like we patched it up years ago.
We've been good for a while. Like it's 20 years ago.
It was 20 years ago.
That grudge,
and they're like, when did it? Like when do you guys patch it up? He goes like, oh, right after right at the end of filming, and like right after the film was over, like we patched everything up and like we got on the same page. We've been talking to each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
/ probably not bring up the time he was in prison for tax evasion, but
yeah.
But yeah,
that and then the Gambit one was just such a like I've loved seeing in the interviews post the movie coming out, like how giddy Channing Tatum was to finally get to play Gambit, and how excited Marvel seems to be with his Gambit, that they are still trying to figure out how to make something work with that character and how to keep that character, especially because it became such a crazy meme and all that stuff, and everybody really seemed to respond and resonate with him. So that's been like great, and seeing both him and Ryan Reynolds come out and talk about the idea that like Channing being so over the moon, like he'll walk through fire for Ryan Reynolds because Ryan Reynolds fought to like put him in that role because Ryan knew just how much Channing wanted it, just like he wanted Deadpool so much, but he basically could leak, the test footage himself and make the original Deadpool movie a reality. So him kind of passing that on and seeing those like things of, Comic-Con things from 10 years ago of like Channing Tatum's going to be Gambit, and he comes out and Ryan Reynolds is out there as Deadpool and stuff. And
it's fulfilling those dreams, man. This movie was about fulfilling dreams and also having a final send off to that Fox universe. And it makes sense. The meta narrative makes sense. It's at the sacrifice of some really great characters and who honestly deserve to have their third film. And that's the part that's kind of like rough.
Yeah. What do you think of the action in the film overall?
I mean, incredible.
We've got a few great sequences. We've got the opening credits fight with Deadpool and and Wolverine's body. We've got obviously the all the stuff with the Void. We've got the multiple Deadpool and Wolverine fights. And then we've got the
Honda Odyssey one that stands out.
Yeah, exactly. And then the big oneer at the end, too, like a prayer. What'd you think of any particular standouts apart from just the Honda Odyssey?
The Honda Odyssey is like when you're talking about action. Action is about two things: circumstances and stakes. What's at stake? When Wolverine and Deadpool are fighting, nothing's at stake. These guys are virtually immortal. There's no, you're not going to have those tense moments of, holding a knife and preventing it from getting, stabbed by it. That's not what they're playing with. They're not playing with stakes here. They're just playing with that. And then it comes to situation. They're in a Honda Odyssey. They are in a minivan. What do you do? How do you fight in a minivan? When Deadpool tosses the katanas, pulls out his, little fist knives because he realizes... and baby knife as well. You have him recognizing, I can't use these in this space, because the entire first part of that fight is him trying to use them in this space and just getting his ass handed to him. And the flip of that of then going in and seeing, you get the back and forth at that point. You get the brilliant use of the seatbelt with, turning it around Wolverine's neck, going out the back, going over, going through the sunroof and trying to string him up, and Wolverine just cutting it with his claw. And everything about the economy of movement and space and action in that sequence is beyond brilliant. And it's set to You're the One That I Want from Grease, which is beautiful, one touchstone of just playing with the frenemy existence of the comic book history between these two characters, but also playing with the fact that I don't know if Hugh Jackman's ever been in a Grease production, but he is known for being on Broadway, and Grease is a popular Broadway,
I mean, they make multiple references to his Broadway stake, including they call out the fact that he's the Music Man kind of thing, or he's going to sing the Music Man, and then also the I remember seeing it in the theater in the credits of the Greatest Showman theme or whatever, and it's in that sequence, when they bash their head against the radio, you hear the Greatest Showman come on for a second.
Yep. The fact that it's going through all of those songs and then it gets to You're the One That I Want is just because it's this is what we've all been wanting. We've always wanted a Deadpool Wolverine. We've wanted this team up forever. And we have it here, and this is the situation. And it's a brilliant fight. I think their intro fight, where it's at that point Wade still has pistols, is awesome. Every single one of their fights is... What I love about it is it's visceral, and it's highly kinetic, and it's deeply impersonal. Because they know they can't kill each other, so this is just anger and rage and murder, just going after each other. Just it's violence for the sake of violence, and violence for the sake of rage, and it works.
We're immortal, but this shit still hurts. and I can still cause you pain.
That's the point. It's also sadistic because it's all about how can I cause you the most amount of pain before you heal from it.
Yeah. So spoilers for what other things did I watch? I also sat down and watched the assembled making of Deadpool and Wolverine. And they devote a lot of time to the creativity of the choreographer, the fight choreographer, and the excitement of getting to do the Deadpool and Wolverine fights where, it is just two immortal foes that, you can just throw everything at one another and they can still keep going.
You have that awesome scene where they're on when Deadpool has him wrapped and he's on his back, pulls out his guns and just pumps bullets into his body cavity.
Yeah.
And then stands up, they fall out, and then has the one in his mouth that he spits out. And it's that's so damn cool. You get to have these really awesome, cool moments. And then that's just those moments. Then you have the incredible, larger action set pieces when they go back to fight Cassandra.
I wanted to touch on the opening fight.
Oh,
yes. They go into, all right, they talk about the creativity of choreographing that fight of, okay, we're going to immediately, crap on the ending of Wolverine. And Sean Levy talks he talks in the making of that, he saw Logan and went out of his way to have his people reach out to James Mangold's people for lunch just to talk about the brilliance of the ending shot of Logan of turning the cross into the X. And so before ever getting attached to and working on this project, he loved Logan and he had that conversation with James Mangold. And so as soon as they get, attached to this project, and especially as soon as Wolverine gets brought into the project, they're all right, what's the thing that we can do? We can immediately shit on the end of Logan, and we can immediately play with that and have fun with that. And then what can we do there? And they stumble on the idea of all right, Deadpool's going to get into a fight and use the body of use the skeleton of Logan as the weapon. And so they talk about the fight choreographer basically going to a prop shop or a Halloween shop and basically getting a skeleton dummy and just being all right, let me see all of these things and let me pull it apart and see how I can use these things as weapons. See what, okay, yeah, we can just break apart ribs and just turn the ribs into throwing knives. We can turn, a femur and we can turn a couple bones into a nunchuck, and basically, just turning all of that into the creativity of that fight sequence.
Well, it's also important to note, Wade never breaks a bone. He's pulling them out of joints.
Yeah.
Because he can't break them. They're adamantium. And it's to that point, though, because at one point I was it's kind of unrealistic that a bone, I was wait, they're not bones. These are adamantium clubs.
Yeah.
And so, an adamantium club, how hard adamantium is, swings in. It's going to crush your skull. Mm-hmm. These aren't bones. These are metal clubs that he's swinging around. These are metal rods he's shoving into people. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that all then juxtaposed with the NSYNC Bye 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 stuff, of course, great. And then I'm a sucker for the big long oneer shots. And seeing all the behind the scenes stuff for the a prayer sequence at the end is a ton of fun, even though it's another one with no stakes of all right, they're going through and they're just decimating all these people that we know are about to get back up. They even in the behind the scenes sequence that you see, okay, all the bodies are down and they say, all right, zombies, everybody up, and all the extras get back to their feet, and so they just literally call them out as zombie characters in that. But it's still fun, and yes, while there is obviously CG augmentation going on there, they show the behind the scenes of the the framing of that, how it was set up in previs and then going through and still getting into the bus and all right, you gotta take this guy out at this mark, and you gotta take this guy out, and how delicately timed everything is to still work within the context of the slow pan on that plane is just a ton of fun. I love the action sequences in this one, and they're I would say they're probably the most standout of any of the Deadpool things that I can remember.
The thing about it is I just don't know. to me, I think they do stand out pretty heavily because you have Wolverine in there as well. Like that automatically elevates it. Wolverine is a more dynamic action character than Cable, who is big fist and guns. The claws and everything else about Wolverine is where it's at. Also, the moment he puts up the hood, it is like just incredible. But I will also say, like, what you also get with the Like a Prayer, one, Like a Prayer is the perfect song for this sequence. It is the perfect song. Because one, that song's actually about giving somebody a blowjob. Two, like there's sexual inferences about like blowjobs. Which is, but it's also like very, like the rendition they do is very powerful and very emotional. And that is Deadpool to a T. It is Deadpool to a T. It is a little bit of crass with a lot of heart.
I mean, the sequence at the end of Deadpool 2 was very much like, orchestral and choral chanting. Well, the chanting is all like, holy fuck, holy shit balls, whatever, like all that stuff, but like still done in, monastic chanting kind of style and stuff. So it is like adding to the epicness of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it fits. It's perfect for it. It's the perfect song. Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds did the world a service by bringing us that rendition for that scene. The way that it cuts off when they get into the tunnel, they go in there, and the moment that it's like, you hear the swell of the as Deadpool's trying to pull it out and get it farther enough so you could get to the other side, and then he doesn't, and then immediately the hand clasp, the extending the arm, shoving the claws into the other and the antimatter, and just that moment, that scene, and then also when the song really kicks up, his shirt explodes, and it's so hot. It's so like ridiculously hot, like. Hugh Jackman's like still got it after all these years. Like my guy, like what a hunk, what an absolute dream. But like just the veins, the like knowing how you have to like dehydrate yourself to get those veins.
Yeah.
The dedication it took for him to have that body in that moment. Which also shout out to them being like, he's in that suit, so it hides how flubby his body is now, and they're just like, nah, we were saving the goods for later. Trust us. And they did, and it delivered on it. It was so incredible that like it's this beautiful moment of like, especially because it's right after Wade, it goes like has a crazy moment and like decides to sacrifice himself for no like just because he's like, I have to be the most important person in the room.
Yeah.
Like I'm Marvel H. Christ. That I'm Marvel Jesus. And then taking a moment to do the whole like walking down the stairs, I'm flying through the air. Like, cause it's just, that's what makes it a Deadpool movie. Is that we get these moments like that. But, yeah, and it's like, it's so good. It's so incredibly good. Also, shout out to Mr. Paradox being like, I sent those two men down there, my friends, like we did what we had to do, like all this stuff. And they're dead now.
Yeah, Deadpool comes
I am like, risen. Fuck!
Just immediately dropping the ploy.
The ruse is over. It's so good. It's so good. Like all the acting for that actor just comes out in that moment.
Yeah.
Of like he's like really hamming it up, and then just that slip, or not that slip, that moment where it snaps, and he's just like that. It's like, this is why you are perfect for this role.
Yeah.
You are smarmy. You are like conniving. You are like, you're very much like, I don't like I'm a disgruntled employee. I don't like the new way. We have new policies on things. I like the old way. It was more efficient. It was better. I have to do more paperwork. Like it's that sort of like workers, like the idea that this group went rogue and they're kind of
it's the middle manager being like, I don't like that everybody's working from home. You all need to come back into the office.
Exactly that. 100% that same sort of like middle management attitude about it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
He's great. Shout out to Cassandra, like the visualization use of Cassandra Nova's like abilities and power, and just the like grotesque distortedness of the hand moving through the face and stuff like that.
Getting a physical like visualization of what it's like for a person with telekinetic abilities to, or not telekinetic, in this case, it's telekinetic is you move things with your mind. Trying to think what it is when you like telepathic. There we go.
Yeah.
To see a visual representation of telepathy.
Well, I mean, she's specific, or she says that I believe the performer is a she, they.
Sorry,
but Cassandra Nova, I believe, is a she still.
I know Cassandra Nova is still she. She
says like, well, my brother, can just read people's minds. I have to be a little more hands-on. So her ability is I can only read your mind if I'm, connected to you, or if I'm doing it in this gross, creepy as fuck way.
But the thing about it is,
but like for me, it's just like, oh, what a cool way of using a power, and an interesting use of CGI for that ability.
Yes,
that we haven't seen like 38 movies into the MCU or whatever. We're still seeing like fun, new, interesting, approaches like that.
When she drags Paradox by his face, it is a visceral, painful moment. But what I love about it is that it's
and also that shout out to Pyro being like, Jesus, just ask.
Yeah, just ask.
Like, you don't need, God, you're so weird. Like, I love him being like, I don't want your fingers in my brain.
I'm going to tell you. I'll just tell you. Like, you never ask. Like, consent is a thing.
Yeah.
We're your employees. Consent is something you need. When Cassandra, what I love about it is a physical representation of what a telepathic person does to your mind anyway. Even though they're not physically putting their hand into your face, mentally that's what they're doing. They're invading your face. They're invading your mind. And so when she does that, and it's like a very like physical looking thing, she gets his hands on, but it's the same effect and it's the same process.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I love that it gives a body horror moment to something that is so otherwise casual about superpowers.
Yeah. In the Cassandra Nova-ness of it all, I love that she's also set up again, like very strong, like presented incredibly strong. Obviously, like she's created this, little hovel in the void out of a corpse of a giant man. She can immediately rip the skin off of Human Torch, and that shows that she can fuck you up. She can when she throws Wolverine into the ground and like slides him away, kind of to get him out of the picture. Like, love that. Love the like that she can also kind of Magneto kind of like control him and like puppet him a little bit.
Oh yeah, just the full telekinesis.
Like she just fully plays with her food basically.
Yep.
In a fun, interesting way. This is one of those places where, like, while not the cameo actors, there's a ton of cameo characters in the void there from other Fox things. You can see the Kevin Nash Punisher, not a guy that looks like Kevin Nash or anything, but he's wearing the Punisher, like he's wearing the outfit that Kevin Nash's character wore in one of the Punisher movies and stuff like that. There are a ton of little cameos in that fight in terms of like characters, even if the actors didn't return for them. But I also like that fight is a mix for me. And it's probably the weakest fight of the bunch for me ultimately. And I think largely it comes down to too many similar-ish weapons.
Yes.
Like Blade, Elektra, and X-23 are all just doing hand-to-hand fight stuff. So Gambit ends up being the only one in that fight that is doing something different and interesting. And I think they do a fun job of like showing you Gambit's powers and abilities, and like when he, launches cards into 4 people and then just like pops them and they all explode in different ways, makes him stand out. But I think a more diverse cast of characters would have made that overall sequence more interesting compared to, all right, he's got a sword, he's got a side, she's got adamantium claws. Like,
yep,
cool, still cool to see, and still cool to see them all get their moments. But
Laura's fight with Juggernaut is a standout in that sequence, but otherwise it is just Mooks being mauled by blades.
And it's like, even that is, it's a standout because we like Laura so much from Logan. And we like that, we like when she pulls out the sunglasses and calls it Pendejo. It's a great fun callback, because like she's in the same boat. Like, we know she's basically immortal. She's not really going to be harmed here, and so she gets the nice moment similar to the Wolverine Sabretooth moment that we got earlier in the film of like, yeah, she goes in, claws Juggernaut's feet, and then we see Juggernaut just kind of fall over, and then
his superpower is if once he starts moving, he can't be stopped.
Yeah.
And so how do you stop him from moving? You cut off his feet. Like, bravo. Nobody's ever thought about that. Nobody's ever done that. So
yeah, in the last movie, they just shocked his ass with electrodes.
Yeah. They just
in a pond.
In a pond, yeah. They knocked him out that way. Or killed him. I think it was a reference that they killed him. So
no, I think he's still.
Oh, he's still alive. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. That was yeah.
I do feel like the fact that also none of them died is like another thing too. It's like, well, they just like after being like, you guys probably won't survive this, they survive it just fine. I thought there could have been a bit more like this is where you kind of add a few, like what I brought it up earlier. Well, how do you make a fight exciting? You add stakes. Yeah. Getting like maybe Elektra or Blade hurt, or maybe here's an idea: Blade gets hurt. Okay, cool. He busts out his fangs and bites a dude's neck out. Like that would be cool.
Sure.
Bring out some of that Daywalker vibe to him.
Yeah. Shout out to him getting to say, motherfucker's still trying to ice skate uphill.
Yep. Oh, so good.
That was like, having not watched the Blade movies, but knowing that line, that was basically like, as soon as he's on the screen, I'm like, okay, well, that's like the one checkbox that they need to like check off for me in terms of like what I know about the Blade character. But also shout out to them fully poking fun at the Mahershala Ali Blade of like,
in development hell,
only one Blade, only ever going to be one blade, and then just the look to the camera from Deadpool, which got the extra layer of like humor and silliness at like a week or two after this movie released, and we heard like yet again that movie's been delayed or lost, some creative talent on it or something like that.
That film is
still seemingly on the docket and maybe making some progress, but
Mahershala Ali is still good for it. So like as long as you keep him engaged with it, you're good.
Yeah.
But also Bethesda, I think it's Bethesda who's making the Blade game as well. Like Blade is
Arcane.
Arcane, there you go. Yeah, Arcane Leon.
Yeah.
They're still making that Blade. Then that's a highly anticipated game for me.
Yep.
So because that's the studio that you want making a Blade video game. So like I've always been a big fan of the Blade franchise. I think Wesley Snipes' Blade is like so goddamn iconic, from like that late 90s, early 2000s era of like long black trench coat movies. It really stands out. It also has like some like really badass scenes.
They talk about in the behind the scenes, and Ryan Reynolds obviously has talked about this a lot in like the interviews of like Blade is the precursor to even the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like if Blade had not been as successful as it was, X-Men and Spider-Man don't get made.
Absolutely.
And we don't, like, Blade is the jump start of this, modern comic book.
I think era. People don't,
even though like obviously like Marvel and the MCU shot it to certainly new stratospheres. Like none of that would have happened without the Blade stuff. So it was another kind of like paying off and honoring and homage to what actually started it all a little bit.
And it really comes down to three things. One, the fact that Blade as a comic book character has always been very authentic to itself. It's never been, it's always been a very like, Blade is a daywalker. He's a man between two worlds and he fights vampires. That's what he does. The fact that that's the first thing. So that you have a consistency of a character. You don't have him tied to a lot of other franchises or a lot of other crossover stuff. Like he has cameos and brought in for other things every once in a while. He was also brought in during the Morbius arc in the Spider-Man television show in the 90s. So he does have some like cameos there, but otherwise very much just like a very straightforward comic book character. And the third thing, or just say second thing, Wesley Snipes is a big Blade fan of the comic books. So Wesley Snipes being like, I want to make this movie, make this happen, made that happen. Because this is the 90s. Wesley Snipes is one of the biggest movie stars out there. And when he says, I want to make this Blade movie, gets Marvel, gets everybody on board with it, gets like, they all put it together. And it is like, it's a hit. It's a hit. It comes like a year and a half afterwards. It comes out on TNT. They have it out there. And it gets like another big resurgence. And then it gets a sequel and then a trilogy. The third film, not the best, but Blade 1 and 2 are like really solid films. Blade 1 especially is really, really great.
And the Blade Trinity a pivotal moment in Ryan Reynolds' career, certainly.
Absolutely.
Too.
That's his big action step up. Like that's when he shows off his action chops.
And snarkiness to the camera kind of stuff. Yeah.
So we get that. We get a really awesome like pathway that does lead us to X-Men, does lead us to Spider-Man.
Does lead to the version of Deadpool, I believe, that basically gets inspired by Ryan Reynolds is kind of inspired probably a little bit by his character in stuff like Blade Trinity.
I would say his character from Blade Trinity is probably Deadpool inspired more than that. Like Ryan Reynolds probably brought some Deadpool aspects to that character from that, I would say.
I don't know the Deadpool timeline of things, but I was always under the impression that like Deadpool is very much like, kind of designed and modeled after Ryan Reynolds' snarkiness and Ryan Reynolds' humor.
Nope. Okay. Predates it by a long shot. You have the snarkiness and kind of that like.
So what is it in like, because I've seen the like comic book frames of Deadpool pre Ryan Reynolds being cast as Deadpool calling himself a Ryan Reynolds type or whatever.
That has been a long time thing because Ryan Reynolds has been very much a public Deadpool fan for a long time and has been a fan favorite casting for Deadpool for before he even got. Ryan Reynolds considered it like the role of his lifetime when he was in Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
And it's because he was already a massive fan of that character. So Deadpool as a character is like 90s, and you have from the get-go snarkiness and a lot of that dark humor, a lot of that kind of fucked up humor that Deadpool is known for predates Ryan Reynolds ever being close to Wolverine Origins. Long predates it back in the 90s. Deadpool was originally a ripoff of Deathstroke. Because where do you do the Deathstroke? You do it in the Deadpool. That's the joke. And he was supposed to be a one-time villain where Cable and the X-Force literally chop him up to bits and send him back to his employer. And then when he shows up again, that's where they introduce he has a regenerative healing factor. Then he gets his own one-shot series, a limited run of his own stuff. Then he gets his own solo series, and that continues it going forward. That solo series is where you get a lot more snarkiness.
Okay, so the reference I'm making as I'm looking it up was in Cable and Deadpool #2 in 2004, 12 years before the original Deadpool movie and 5 years before X-Men Origins Wolverine. Deadpool says he looks like Ryan Reynolds crossed with a Shar-Pei.
Yes.
So that's what I'm referencing.
Sure. Yeah.
Before Ryan Reynolds was ever attached to Deadpool, Deadpool attached itself to Ryan Reynolds.
Accurate. That is accurate.
Yeah.
Yes, but when people say this actor's the perfect actor for this comic book character, there is no greater example of that than Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, in my opinion.
Sure. And I think that's another huge victory for this movie is this an argument is the same for the Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman made Wolverine and has been that character for 24 years now in such a profound way. It's basically him, Ryan Reynolds, and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man are these characters are so perfectly cast for who they are. And Hugh Jackman, arguably the most cast against type because he's, bigger than the comic book version. But even this movie calls attention to that. It calls out the fact that look, it's our comic accurate Short King and how stupid that would have looked.
Yes, 100%
in this medium. So yeah.
A lot of the alt ones is all the fan favorite ideas of wouldn't it be cool if it was comic book accurate, or wouldn't it be cool if he was it was the Days of Future Past, or if he was Patch in Madripoor, wouldn't it be cool if we did all these things, and them just being fuck you, no.
Yeah, none of those ones would want to do anything with
Deadpool. None of those characters would want to be an interesting movie. So, it works so well. I loved it. I love all of that. But yeah, so we don't So Blade, Wesley Snipes being a big fan of Blade, making sure the Blade movies happen, is that precursor to everything else. And it's true. It's if it wasn't for the massive, spectacular failures of the original Captain America and the original Fantastic Four films from the 80s, trying to leap off from the success of the Incredible Hulk TV show.
Yeah.
Like you have like there's a big rough patch of live action adaptations of Marvel properties that makes people's complaints about like the Phase 3 issues or whatever, or like the whatever modern era we're in Marvel, look like these films look like Oscar-worthy pictures compared to that rough patch, okay? I have seen the original Fantastic Four film. I have seen the original Captain America film. They are so not good. They're unbelievably not good. Actually very good, Italian Spider-Man. That's actually a very good one. Live action adaptation, Italian Spider-Man, very good.
No. You can be a hipster all you want. I don't care. That's a no for me.
Have you ever seen Italian Spider-Man?
I've seen enough of Italian Spider-Man from Alamo Drafthouse pre-shows, from YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Like Italian Spider-Man and Japanese Spider-Man would love to see in Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse. Would absolutely love to see those little cameos pop up because I think that would be hilarious. But yeah, no, those are not good. You're an idiot. Any other favorite moments or least favorite moments to call out before we wind down?
You know, the one thing I'll say is this movie really helps show off the great dichotomy of a stoic, gruffer character being paired up with a more loose, jovial, slap happy.
It's just the dichotomy of Wade and Cable from the last movie, just now with
I was comparing it to You and Me, but anyway, yeah.
Oh, got it. Sure, yeah. You're a Deadpool like. All right.
I'm Fat Pool.
There you go.
You didn't see my cameo. I got cut from the movie. I was Fat Pool.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to this movie. A very fun adventure, despite its issues. And I'm always a sucker for Green Day Time of Your Life. So when that came up as the let's play all the behind the scenes stuff of the Fox universe as like the proper send off. Because again, that's what this movie is a send off to. It's not a send off to the Deadpool characters. It's a send off to the Fox universe.
Yeah, you have that. Also, shout out to Avril Lavigne's. I forgot the name of the song, but it's when they're driving, in when they first get the Honda Odyssey and they drive off into the Borderlands or wherever it is. It plays an Avril Lavigne song out of nowhere, and I'm just like, that's wild. I totally forgot about that moment. So shout out to that moment too.
Sure. Yeah, lots of fun in here. I wish it hadn't come at the expense of other stuff, but still ton of fun. And the behind the scenes stuff really highlights who is it? I think Hugh Jackman says something to the effect during when Sean Levy and Hugh Jackman are working on Real Steel. Hugh Jackman tells a story that when they were working on Real Steel, Hugh Jackman asks if Sean Levy has ever worked with Ryan Reynolds because they've obviously done Deadpool and Wolverine or Origins at this point. Have you ever worked with Ryan Reynolds? And basically says if you ever get to work with Ryan Reynolds, you guys are going to be friends for life. And fast forward 10 years or whatever, and that comes to pass on Free Guy, and absolutely is the thing. So the a lot of behind the scenes stuff is highlighting the fact that this is three best friends in the director and the two leads getting to go to work and have fun and just make cool shit with each other, and that comes across so much in this film.
It does.
And it's a delight. It helps elevate this what would have already been a fun concept of, and especially the idea that they had planted seeds for a Deadpool versus Wolverine or Deadpool and Wolverine kind of thing in the first two, purely as jokes and purely as Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman being friendly with one another. Back in
Deadpool 1 with the magazine of Hugh Jackman, absolutely.
And then Logan comes out, and then immediately after Deadpool 2 comes out, and Deadpool 2 calls out fuck you, Logan, for killing yourself. Well, all right, I'm going to kill myself too.
That's so good.
Yeah, just absolutely trying to one-up each other. Ton of fun there. And clearly they all have so much fun on set, and behind the scenes, and again, speaking to the like behind the scenes making of stuff, there are sequences where they show Hugh like a concept of like here's what the van fight's going to look like, and it's the stunt team has like basically mapped out what this fight's going to look like on a blue screen stage or something like that. Here's what we're thinking, here's how we're going to play with it, and here's like the ideas, and it's just like somebody's like cell phone footage of Hugh watching that and just like laughing so hard he's crying, and the humor and like the joy that he had, because it's very much a side that he never got to play as X-Men Wolverine, that like he's also off the hook and unleashed and gets to go nuts while he's also still gruff and Wolverine. And so ton of fun to be had in this one. So let's dive into the report card. We grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give Deadpool and Wolverine here, Cameron?
This is really the hard question that I've been asking myself ever since I watched the movie today, is like, where am I going to grade this? And I think I'm landing on an A-. I would have given this a B+, but the strength of the meta narrative of the Fox farewell brings it back up to like I'm A- to A on it, like really like I'm at like a 93, 94 on this. But like I do really, really hate the lack of the Deadpool cast. Because like we had 2 movies with those folks and we love them. So
yeah. Same reasoning for me, but I'm gonna give it an A. It's basically like the lack of the Deadpool core cast keeps it from being an A+. I think there is still a ton of creativity in here and a ton of fun, especially in the combat and in the ways that they wanted to play with and do a Deadpool and Wolverine story. Especially again, speaking to like the behind the scenes and making of, they talk about like other pitches that they had were like, hey, let's just do a movie where it's like the Deadpool deleted scenes where he's been in the MCU the whole time, but it's just like him cut out of scenes from Infinity War or scenes, or Ryan Reynolds would talk about this a lot, I think, on the interview circuit, of like they wanted to just create a trailer for and promote just the shittiest of shitty movies and release it as that, and it's not until 5 minutes into watching this movie that you like that the basically screen cuts out and Deadpool and Wolverine starts to play. Like they wanted to basically so like insane. Stealth release this under crazy. A completely other shitty idea, which obviously Disney is never going to let happen. But like
that's an insane
that
idea.
Being like one of their pitches in terms of like how do we go full Deadpool with this and like subvert expectations? How do we reinvent ourselves? How do we not do what we've done before kind of stuff? Ultimately, Hugh Jackman's like signing on and being like, yeah, let's I really want to do this. I want to, make this movie. What do you think? What can we do? And again, in the behind the scenes stuff, they talk about the idea that like Hugh calls Ryan up and says like, I think I want to do this. What do you think? And Ryan's like, I was about to go into my final pitch and didn't really have any good ideas. And then Hugh came, and landed on my lap and we're able to make the pitch. All right, it's Deadpool and Wolverine. Hugh comes back and we'll figure something out and go from there. And that's what gets greenlit kind of thing. So a good like kismet of timing and just great collaboration of people. But yeah, the sacrifice of 90. The Deadpool people does keep it from being an A+ for me. Also, shout out to again this speaks to I think the good-natured and pure friendship between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Shout out to the line of him basically saying like he's let himself go since the divorce. Yeah, referencing the very real and
very recent,
potentially very controversial divorce of Hugh Jackman from his wife for many, many years, especially in the like stuff that's coming to light, being like him and Sutton Foster may have been a little together during The Music Man, and maybe that was what kind of caused the rift and all that stuff. Be it like the fact that they kind of like crack jokes about that is like, oh shit. Yep. it's friendly ribbing, and they use that to kind of like push past it and deal with it or whatever. So
hey, shout out to Kevin Feige's like stealth cameos in this one where
where it's Feigebot is the
Feigebot shows up, but also Feige references like Feige said we can't have cocaine.
Yeah.
And like just making a joke about like not being able to have cocaine because the head of Marvel Studios said no.
Yeah.
Is great. Also, shout out to Kevin Feige having to explain to a Disney board member what pegging was.
Yeah. The another trivia thing that has come out was they only had one real line that was like cut from the film, and whatever it was like the one thing Bob Iger was like, "Hey, can we scrap that?" And whatever it was got replaced by the bit like it's like Pinocchio stuck his nose in my face and lied to me. So
stuck his nose up my ass and just keeps lying.
And just keeps lying. It's whatever was there used to be something that even Disney was like, no. And so the fact that it's like whatever stayed is still a Disney like pure Pinocchio lying reference kind of thing is like, all right, yeah, whatever was there. And they've like said like that's the thing they're going to take there to the graves or whatever. I'm sure it'll come out in some kind of future interview or something like that. But just like that being the one thing that was like rejected is like, all right, cool. And a lot of time and they ultimately were like, I think Ryan Reynolds was like, it was a thing that I could double down and fight for, but it wasn't a thing worth fighting for. So we land on this Pinocchio joke instead. They sign off on it, and hey, it's probably a better joke overall.
There you go.
Shout out to that. So A for me, but had the potential for an A+ if they hadn't kind of sidelined the whole core Deadpool crew.
Not the Deadpool core, the core Deadpool crew.
Yeah. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. There is the first Deadpool, which coincides with our That D Plus Show episode 135. Deadpool 2, our more recent Deadpool or episode 226. Logan, episode 224. What If, which you can watch episode 92 if you want our season 1 thoughts on What If, or episode 202 of That D Plus Show for our season 2 thoughts. Agatha All Along, which you can watch episodes 234 and 240 for our Agatha All Along thoughts. And then X-Men, X2, and Assembled, the making of Deadpool and Wolverine. Extracurriculars, you watching anything else on Disney Plus recently there, Cam?
Recently, I have... I'm like wrapping up English Teacher on Hulu right now. So that's about it for me. Otherwise, I've just been playing Veilguard. So
cool. See, as I alluded to, I watched the Assembled making of Deadpool and Wolverine. I also, because it's something that I haven't watched in a couple years, but I think about every now and then. I'm like, I'd like to watch that again, and was finally like, oh right, I have Hulu again. I can watch Palm Springs again. So I sat down and watched Palm Springs again.
Oh, dude, Palm Springs is so good.
Especially, I think it was in the zeitgeist a little bit because Kristen Milioti, knocking people out on The Penguin. That's one of my favorite film roles of hers is her work in Palm Springs, and it's just a fun.
That's an unbelievably underrated movie. That movie is so good.
Such a great, fun approach / take on the Groundhog's Day stuff, and great performances from Andy Samberg, Kristen Milioti, and J.K. Simmons. Ton of fun in there. I watched that, and then I'm gonna throw it as not, even though it's not for some reason it's not on Disney Plus. But the Assembled, the making of Agatha All Along, they put the whole thing up on YouTube. It's about an hour long, so you can watch that on YouTube if you want.
But they didn't put it on Disney Plus?
Yeah, it's not on Disney Plus for some reason.
That's weird.
I don't know what's going on there. But that was fun. They go through kind of episode by episode and do the making of stuff. And it was fun because just throughout, some of the clips they pull in throughout were very specific and watching and seeing that moment with the full context of the show is like, I haven't gone through and rewatched the show, but seeing moments like Jennifer Kale and Agatha arguing over the part of the Witch's Road being like, no, it clearly says Coven of Two. And then Jen being like, no, it clearly says Coven True. What are you talking about? Coven of Two doesn't make any sense. But when you put in the context of Coven of Two being Agatha and her son, having written the fucking thing, and
Yep.
she knows what she's talking about.
Yep.
It's like,
That's
oh
good.
my God, what a great, like, it's that, like, I'm going to mansplain this thing to the person who wrote the thing.
Yep. That's awesome. I got to rewatch that. I have to watch
a great
that.
little moment. So yeah, seeing that clip like in this like new context, and there are a couple of moments like that where just seeing the moment recontextualized was a ton of fun. But also just it's a great little behind the scenes of, again, that one in particular. Some of the big highlights are how practical everything is. Like they built out this big, they built the whole Witch's Road as like a physical set.
So cool.
In different segments, and something I certainly didn't pick up in the filming of it, but they highlight in the behind the scenes is like the leaves on the ground of the Witch's Road change depending on which, challenge or which trial they're heading to.
Cool.
So it's like, oh, they're going into the fire trial. Well, the leaves are red now, or they're going into the water trial. The leaves are blue, and also like they practically built the beach house as a giant miniature so that they could shoot that whole thing in camera and like not so like even the things that you think are maybe a little bit more special effecty are very physical.
That's awesome.
So yeah, lots of real cool stuff behind the scenes stuff like that, and yeah, just definitely recommend. Don't know why it's not on Disney Plus, but certainly putting it on YouTube makes it accessible to anybody that wants it. Just a weird like, oh, you could have just put it in both places though. But anyway, so yeah, shout outs to all those extra things I watched on Disney Plus this last week. Or this last 2 weeks, since obviously we had a little bit of extra time since I watched Deadpool and Wolverine the day it came out a week and a half ago. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk Deadpool and Wolverine here. You can follow Cameron on Blue Sky at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to shout out there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to our last week's episode of That Nerdy Site Show. We delved further into like my experience with the Veilguard. We kind of talked like some slight spoilers, mostly having to do with like the characters that have been introduced to that point. But yeah, it was a great time. We really delved deep into kind of like how excited I've been about the lore and how much we've discovered in the lore of everything going on so far. Like I said, slight spoilers, but yeah, that being the case, it was an awesome episode. If you've played Veilguard and you kind of want to experience a little bit of a slow burn, that episode plus the episode before that one from the week before is kind of like the Veilguard overall thoughts going forward. And like, yeah.
Yep. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and continuing that, next week's episode, Cameron has just finished the Dragon Age of the Veilguard, and we were talking extensively about it before we started recording this, but we're going to save more of that because we're going to do a full spoiler cast for next week's That Nerdy Site Show. So yeah, stay tuned for that on Monday, because that'll be a fun conversation now that we have both played through it. And we had some very different choices and some shockingly similar choices, even in terms of things that aren't choices in the game, just things we happen to do that we both landed on doing together. Want to know what I'm talking about? Watch the episode, because we will definitely talk about it there. So yeah, shout out to that. As I said, know That D Plus Show next week. We're going to take the week off for the Thanksgiving holiday here in the States. If you celebrate, have a happy Thanksgiving. If not, have a happy Thursday. And we will be back in December for maybe a holiday thing, maybe not. But we'll be back for something in December here as we wind down 2024 here on That D Plus Show. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest. Once again, if you like what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other. Class dismissed.